The massive alien ships appeared in Earth's sky without warning. 3 enormous vessels, each the size of a city, hung in space above the planet like dark clouds. People on Earth looked up and felt fear crawl up their spines. Captain Do-Yun Park stood on the bridge of the Earth orbital station, watching the alien fleet through the large windows. He had commanded Earth's small space defense force for 5 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The alien ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Sir, we're getting a communication request," said Lieutenant Hana Yu from her station. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she worked the controls. "Put it through," Do-Yun said. He straightened his uniform and walked to the center of the bridge. The main screen flickered to life. 2 alien beings appeared on the display. The first looked like it was made of living crystal, with sharp edges that caught the light. The second looked like a giant insect, with 6 arms and eyes that seemed to look in every direction at once. "I am Ambassador Kelthara of the Vorthak Empire," said the crystal being. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "This is Hive Speaker Zixamlon of the Nixari Collective. We represent the Galactic Council." Do-Hyun had heard stories about the Galactic Council, 12 ancient alien races that ruled most of the galaxy. Earth had only learned about them 2 years ago when human ships first traveled beyond the solar system. "I am Captain Do-Yun Park of Earth Defense Command," he replied. "Welcome to our system." The insect creature made a sound like clicking metal. "We are not here for pleasantries, human. We are here to deliver the tribute edict." Ambassador Yoonji Kim hurried onto the bridge at that moment. She was Earth's best diplomat, small and quiet, but very smart. She had been sleeping when the alien ships arrived, but she came as soon as she heard. "What is the tribute edict?" Yoonji asked, stepping beside Do-Hyun. Kelthara's crystal body began to glow brighter. "When a new species develops space travel, they must pay tribute to the established order. This is the law that has kept peace in the galaxy for 3,000 years. "What kind of tribute?" Do-Hyun asked, though he already feared the answer. 60% of your resources," Zixamlon said, its voice buzzing like angry bees. 60% of your technology, 60% of your population to serve the council races." The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen in shock. Yoonji felt her heart stop for a moment. They were asking for more than half of everything humanity had. "That's not tribute," she said quietly. "That's slavery." The crystal being made a sound like breaking glass. "You misunderstand your place, young species. The natural hierarchy doctrine states that older races must guide younger ones. We have evolved for millions of years. You have barely learned to leave your planet." "And if we refuse?" Do-Hyun asked. The screen changed to show images that made everyone on the bridge feel sick. Planets turned to glass, cities melted from orbital bombardment, entire worlds that looked like graveyards. 12 species have refused the tribute edict," Kelthara said. 12 species no longer exist. Their worlds are monuments to the price of defiance. Admiral Taewon Lee entered the bridge, still putting on his uniform jacket. He was an old soldier with gray hair and scars on his hands from the resource wars. He looked at the screen and immediately understood what was happening. "How long do we have to decide?" Yoonji asked. 72 standard hours, Zixamlon replied. "Prepare your compliance documents. List your resources, your technology, your population centers. We will return for your submission." The screen went dark. The alien ships remained in orbit, waiting like patient predators. For a long moment, nobody on the bridge spoke. Then Admiral Taewon broke the silence. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command," he said, "and wake up every world leader. We need to talk." Dr. Somin Choi, the station's alien expert, had been recording everything. She was a young scientist who had studied every piece of alien technology humans had found. She looked at the data on her screens and shook her head. "Their ships are incredible," she said. "Each one has more firepower than our entire defense fleet. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours." "How many ships do they have in total?" Do-Hyun asked. "Intelligence reports suggest the Council controls over 50,000 warships across the galaxy," she replied. "We have less than 200. Yunji sat down in a chair, feeling the weight of the situation. They're giving us a choice between slavery and death. No, said Admiral Taewon, his voice hard as steel. They think they're giving us that choice. But there might be a third option. What third option? Hana asked. The old admiral looked out at the alien ships hanging in space above Earth. The option they never considered. The one that scares them so much they try to prevent it with overwhelming force. Which is? Fighting back. Dr. Soman looked up from her computers. Admiral, their technology is so far ahead of ours. How could we possibly fight them? Taewon smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Because they think like conquerors, not like survivors. They've been the strongest for so long that they've forgotten what it's like to face someone with nothing to lose. Do-hyun understood. You're talking about making this so costly for them that they decide we're not worth it. I'm talking about making them bleed for every inch, Taewon said. Even if we lose, we make them remember that humanity doesn't go quietly. Yoonji stood up. First, we need to hear what Earth's leaders decide. I'll prepare a full report on the situation. Captain, maintain position and monitor the alien ships. Don't do anything that might be seen as hostile. Understood, Do-hyun replied. As the diplomatic team prepared to return to Earth, Admiral Taewon stayed on the bridge. He looked out at the alien vessels and thought about humanity's short history in space. Humans had been flying between stars for only 10 years. They had explored maybe 20 star systems. Their technology was basic compared to the aliens, but humans had something the aliens might not understand. They had spent their entire history fighting. Fighting nature, fighting each other, fighting for survival on a dangerous planet. They knew how to adapt, how to improvise, how to keep going when everything looked hopeless. The next 72 hours would determine humanity's future. Would they submit and become slaves to alien masters? Would they refuse and face extinction? Or would they find that third option Admiral Taewon had mentioned? The alien ships waited in orbit, dark and silent. Inside them, beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia prepared to add another species to their empire. They had no doubt about humanity's answer. Every species eventually submitted. It was the natural order of things. They had never met humans before. The emergency meeting began 6 hours after the alien ships arrived. Leaders from every nation on Earth gathered in the Global Defense Council chamber in Geneva. The room was built deep underground, protected by layers of steel and concrete. Today it felt like a tomb. President Min Jun-yoon sat at the head of the table looking older than his 55 years. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on his shoulders. Around the table sat prime ministers, presidents, generals, and scientists from every corner of Earth. Ambassador Yoon-ji Kim finished her report about the alien ultimatum. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of air conditioning. Everyone understood what 60% meant. It meant the end of human independence forever. So our choices are slavery or death, said the Prime Minister of England, a woman named Sarah Chen. Not much of a choice. General Hyemin Jang leaned forward in her chair. She commanded the Earth Defense Force, humanity's military in space. We have to consider fighting back. With what? Asked the President of Brazil. 200 ships against 50,000? That's not a war, that's suicide. Admiral Taewon Lee stood up. Everyone knew his reputation as a military genius. He had won the resource wars 20 years ago when half the world was fighting over water and rare metals. I've been studying their ships, he said. They're powerful, but they're built for intimidation, not for fighting an enemy that refuses to surrender. Dr. Jiwon Seo, the head of Earth's secret weapons program, activated a holographic display. Images of strange technology filled the air above the table. We haven't been completely honest with the public, she said. For the past 10 years, we've been reverse engineering alien technology from crashed ships. We've made some breakthroughs. President Yoon looked surprised. What kind of breakthroughs? Quantum tunneling drives that let ships appear anywhere in space instantly, Jiwon explained. Adaptive artificial intelligence that can learn enemy tactics in real time. Energy weapons that can cut through any known material. How many ships do we have with this technology? Asked General Hyemin. 50, Ji-won replied. Hidden in asteroid fields and moon bases, the aliens don't know they exist. Commander Sunho Baek, the leader of Earth's elite pilot squadron, spoke up. I've been testing the new fighters. They're incredible. One of our new ships can take on 5 of their older models. But they don't have older models, said the president of Russia. They have the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Sunho smiled. Advanced doesn't always mean better in a fight. Their ships are built to last for centuries. Ours are built to win battles. There's a difference. Dr. Somin Choi had been quiet during the meeting, but now she cleared her throat. I've been analyzing their communication patterns. They're overconfident. They genuinely believe we'll surrender without a fight. Maybe we should, said the Chancellor of Germany. If we surrender now, at least some of humanity survives. If we fight, they might kill everyone. Some of humanity, Admiral Taewon repeated. As slaves, working in their mines, building their ships, serving their masters. Is that really survival? The room erupted in arguments. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded they fight to the last human. The debate went on for hours. President Yoon finally called for order. We need to think about this clearly. What are our real options? General Hyemin stood up and walked to the holographic display. Option 1. We surrender. 60% of our people become slaves. The other 40% live under alien rule. Human civilization slowly dies as we're bred and worked to death. She touched the display and new images appeared. Option 2. We refuse and they destroy Earth. 7 billion people die, but we die free. What about option 3? Asked Yoonji. Option 3 is we fight back and maybe find a way to win, Hyemin said. It's the longest shot, but it's the only one that gives us a future. Commander Sunho activated another part of the display. We've been working on battle plans. The aliens expect us to fight like they do. Big fleets meeting in open space, but we don't have to play by their rules. Explain, said President Yoon. Guerrilla warfare in space, Sunho replied. Hit-and-run attacks, suicide missions. Make every ship they destroy cost them 10 of their own. Even if we lose, we make them pay such a high price that other species see it's possible to hurt the Council. Dr. Ji-won brought up more technical data. Our AI systems can learn and adapt faster than theirs. If we can survive the first few battles, our technology will start giving us advantages they never expected. How long could we hold out? Asked the Prime Minister of Japan. Against their full fleet? Maybe a few months? Admiral Taewon said honestly. But we wouldn't be fighting their full fleet. They have to keep most of their ships spread across the galaxy to control their empire. They can probably send 2,000 or 3,000 ships against us. 2,000 ships against 200, said the President of Canada. Still sounds like suicide. Maybe, Taewon admitted. But it's suicide that sends a message. For 3,000 years, no one has seriously fought the Council. If we make them bleed, other species might find the courage to rebel. Yoonji had been thinking while the others talked. What if we could turn this into a galactic war? What if our resistance inspired others to fight back? That's a big gamble, said President Yoon. We'd be betting humanity's existence on the hope that aliens we've never met might help us. We're already betting humanity's existence, General Hyman pointed out. At least this way we're betting on freedom instead of slavery. The debate continued through the night. They argued about morality, about duty, about the future of the human race. Some leaders left the meeting to talk with their governments. Others stayed to work on plans. As dawn broke over Geneva, President Yoon called for a final vote. The question was simple: surrender or fight? One by one, the leaders of Earth cast their votes. Some voted with tears in their eyes. Others voted with anger. But when the count was finished, the result was clear, unanimous. Every single leader voted to fight. God help us all, whispered the Pope, who had been silent through most of the meeting. God helps those who help themselves, replied President Yoon. And we're going to help ourselves to a fight those aliens will never forget. Admiral Taewon was already working on deployment orders. We have 72 hours to get ready. I want our hidden fleets moved into position. Start evacuating non-essential personnel from the orbital stations. And someone needs to figure out how to tell the aliens no. Yunji stood up. That's my job. I'll handle the response. What are you going to tell them? Asked General Hyemin. Yunji smiled, but her eyes were cold as winter. The truth that humanity doesn't kneel. As the meeting ended, leaders hurried back to their countries to prepare for war. Military commanders activated secret protocols. Scientists worked frantically on new weapons. Pilots said goodbye to their families. Across Earth, people sensed something was happening. The news reports were vague, but everyone could feel the tension in the air. Some prayed, some cried, some simply looked up at the sky and wondered what was coming. In orbit, the alien ships waited patiently. Inside them, beings who had conquered 1,000 worlds prepared to receive humanity's surrender. They had no doubt about what Earth's answer would be. It was always the same. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had seen species rise and fall. They had watched civilizations bloom and die. But they had never encountered a species quite like humanity. They were about to learn what made humans different. The countdown continued. 60 hours until the deadline. 60 hours until humanity's answer would shake the galaxy. The 72 hours passed like a slow nightmare. Across Earth, people watched the news and waited. Military bases hummed with activity as soldiers prepared for the impossible. Families held each other closer, not knowing if they would see another sunrise. Ambassador Yoonji Kim stood in her quarters aboard the Earth orbital station, looking at herself in the mirror. She wore a simple black suit, Earth's formal diplomatic uniform. In her hand, she held a single data pad. On that pad was humanity's answer to the Galactic Council. She had spent 2 days writing different responses. Long speeches about freedom and dignity. Technical arguments about the illegality of forced tribute. Emotional pleas for mercy and understanding. In the end, she had thrown them all away. Sometimes the most powerful words were the simplest ones. Captain Do-hyun Park found her in the corridor leading to the main conference room. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. "No," Yoonji replied honestly. But being ready was never the point. The main conference room had been prepared for the aliens' return. Earth's flags hung alongside those of the United Nations and the Global Defense Council. The room was clean and formal, but it felt like a courtroom where humanity was about to be judged. At exactly the appointed time, the alien delegation materialized in the center of the room. The same two beings who had delivered the ultimatum 3 days ago. Ambassador Kelthera of the Crystal Race and Hive Speaker Zixamlan of the Insect People. With them came 4 other aliens representing different council species. A tall, thin being with gray skin and large black eyes stepped forward. "I am Judge Advocate Morden of the Keltharian Assembly. I am here to witness your compliance and process the tribute documentation." Behind him, a creature that looked like a walking tree spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "I am Growth Singer Velnoth of the Sylvany Collective. I will oversee the selection of your biological tributes." 2 more aliens completed the delegation. A being made of flowing liquid metal and another that seemed to be pure energy contained in a mechanical suit. Yoonji walked to the center of the room, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She was so small, compared to the aliens barely reaching the chest of the shortest one. But she walked with her head high and her shoulders straight. "Present your compliance documentation," Hive Speaker Zixamlan buzzed impatiently. "We have many worlds to visit today." Yoonji activated her data pad. The holographic display appeared in the air between her and the aliens. Everyone in the room could see it clearly. A single word appeared in bright blue letters. "No." The silence that followed was complete. Not even the sound of breathing broke the quiet. The aliens stared at the display as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Ambassador Kelthera's crystal body began to flicker with confused colors. "I do not understand. Where are your resource inventories? Your population lists? Your technology transfers?" "That is our answer," Yoonji said calmly. "No." Judge Advocate Morden leaned forward, his large black eyes blinking rapidly. "This is impossible. No species has ever responded with simple refusal. There must be a mistake in your translation systems. There is no mistake, Yunji replied. Earth's answer to your tribute demand is no. We will not surrender our resources. We will not give you our technology. We will not send our people to be your slaves. The liquid metal alien shifted into a more threatening form. You do not comprehend the consequences of defiance, primitive species. We have shown you what happens to worlds that refuse the natural order. We saw the recordings, Yunji said. 12 dead species, 12 worlds turned to glass, and now you'll have to make it 13. Growth singer Velnoth rustled his leafy appendages in what might have been laughter. You speak as if you have a choice in the matter. Your entire species could not resist a single council battleship. Then why are there 6 of you here instead of 1? Yunji asked. If we're so weak, why did you bring a full diplomatic team to accept our surrender? The energy being in the mechanical suit spoke for the first time, its voice like static electricity. Because the Council honors even primitive species with proper ceremony before their integration into the galactic order. Integration, Yunji repeated. Is that what you call slavery now? Hive speaker Zixamlan's multiple arms gestured angrily. We call it evolution. Younger species serve older ones until they prove worthy of independence. This has been the way for 3 millennia. And how many species have ever been judged worthy of that independence? Yunji asked. The question caught them off guard. None of the aliens answered immediately. I thought so, Yunji continued. Your system isn't about evolution or worthiness. It's about permanent subjugation. You don't want partners or allies. You want slaves. Ambassador Kelthera's crystal form began to glow brighter, a sign of rising anger. You dare to judge us? You who have barely learned to leave your solar system? We have built civilizations that span galaxies. And how many of those civilizations chose to join you freely? Yunji asked. How many came to you as friends instead of being conquered as enemies? Again, silence from the aliens. That's what I thought, Yunji said. You've been conquerors for so long that you've forgotten what allies look like. You've crushed every species that might have been your equals because you can't imagine sharing power with anyone. Judge Advocate Mordun stepped closer, towering over the small human woman. Your philosophical arguments are irrelevant. The Council has spoken. You will comply or you will be destroyed. Yunji looked up at him without fear. Then you'll have to destroy us, because we will not bow. You choose extinction over service? Growth singer Velnoth asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. We choose freedom over slavery, Yunji replied. If that means death, then we'll die free. But I don't think it will be as easy as you expect. The liquid metal alien laughed, a sound like grinding machinery. Your species has 200 primitive ships. The Council fleet approaching your system contains 2,000 advanced warships. Your resistance will last perhaps an hour. Maybe, Yunji admitted. But it will be an hour you'll remember, and more importantly, it will be an hour the rest of the galaxy will remember. The energy being's mechanical suit crackled with power. What do you mean by that? I mean that for 3,000 years, no one has made the Council bleed. No one has shown the galaxy that you can be hurt. But when our ships start taking yours down with them, when your perfect record of easy victories gets broken, other species are going to notice. Hive speaker Zixamlan's compound eyes focused on her with new attention. You think to inspire rebellion across the galaxy? I think oppressed people everywhere dream of freedom, Yunji said, and sometimes all they need is proof that their oppressors can bleed. Ambassador Kelthara's crystal body was now blazing with angry light. You would doom your entire species for this fantasy? We would die for our principles, Yunji replied. Can you say the same? When was the last time any of your species risked everything for what they believed in? The aliens looked at each other, and for the first time they seemed uncertain. Judge Advocate Morden regained his composure. Your courage is noted but irrelevant. The Council fleet will arrive in 6 standard days. Use that time to reconsider your answer. Our answer won't change, Yunji said firmly. As the aliens prepared to leave, Hive speaker Zixamlan turned back to her. "What makes you think you can succeed where 12 other species failed?" Yunji smiled. And there was something in that smile that made the alien delegates feel cold despite their environmental suits. "Because the other 12 species fought your war," she said. "We're going to fight ours." The aliens materialized back to their ships, leaving Yunji alone in the conference room. She sat down heavily in a chair, the weight of what she had just done settling on her shoulders. Captain Do-hyun entered the room. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," Yunji admitted. "But also proud." For the first time in 3,000 years, someone looked the council in the eye and said no. "Think it will matter?" Do-hyun asked. Yunji looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council's war fleet was coming to destroy humanity. But somewhere else, on worlds they had never heard of, other species were watching and waiting. "It already has," she said. "The galaxy just heard humanity's first word as a spacefaring species, and that word was no." The council's war fleet arrived like a thunderstorm made of metal and death. 2,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their massive hulls blotting out the stars. The largest vessels were 10 miles long, bristling, with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Taewon Lee stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable Soul, watching the enemy fleet through the tactical display. Earth's entire defense force waited in formation around him. 200 ships. That looked tiny compared to the alien armada. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship," reported Communications Officer Ji-hoon Nam. "Put it through," Taewon said. The main screen filled with the image of a being unlike any they had seen before. It was huge, covered in black armor with glowing red eyes and metal claws where hands should be. This was Fleet Commander Vexthar of the Draconian Empire, the Council's military arm. "Human fleet," the creature's voice was like grinding stone. "You are outnumbered 10 to 1. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Admiral Taewon stepped forward. His uniform was clean and pressed, his gray hair neat despite the circumstances. "This is Admiral Taewon Lee of the Earth Defense Force. We have already given the Council our answer." "Then you have chosen extinction," Vexithar replied. "So be it." The transmission ended. For a moment, space was silent except for the hum of ship engines and the quiet breathing of human crews preparing to die. "All ships, this is Admiral Lee," Taewon spoke into his communicator. "Remember why we're here. We're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to show the galaxy that tyranny can be resisted. Make every shot count." The alien fleet began to move forward in perfect formation. Their ships were beautiful in a terrible way, sleek and deadly like swimming sharks. Energy readings from their weapons were off the charts. Captain Do-hyun Park commanded the cruiser Defiant Hope on the fleet's right flank. His ship carried one of the new quantum tunneling drives that Dr. Ji-won Seo had developed. Around him, his crew worked calmly at their stations, knowing they were about to die. "Sir, enemy ships are charging weapons," reported Tactical Officer Minji Park. "All ships prepare for evasive maneuvers," Admiral Taewon ordered. "Execute Plan Goliath on my mark." Commander Sunho Bayek sat in the cockpit of his experimental fighter, the Ghost Phoenix. Behind him, 49 other pilots waited in the launch bays of various ships. They were humanity's best, volunteers who had asked for the most dangerous mission of all. "Ghost Squadron, remember the plan," Sunho said over the radio. "We go in fast, we go in hard, and we take as many of them with us as we can." The first alien salvo lit up space like a deadly fireworks show. Thousands of energy beams and plasma bolts streaked across the void. But when they reached the position where Earth's fleet had been, they found empty space. The human ships had vanished. "Impossible," roared Fleet Commander Vexthar. "Where did they go?" His question was answered when 50 human ships materialized inside the alien formation, having used their quantum tunneling drives to appear behind enemy lines. At point-blank range, they opened fire with everything they had. The Council ships were caught completely off guard. They were built for long-range combat, not knife fighting at close quarters. Human weapons, inferior in raw power, found weak points in alien shields and armor. Captain Do-hyun's Defiant Hope rammed directly into the side of a massive Nixari battleship. The impact tore both vessels apart, but the human ship's nuclear reactor overloaded, taking the alien vessel with it in a burst of white fire. "Sir, we've lost the Defiant Hope," reported Lieutenant Hana Yu from the flagship bridge. "Noted," Admiral Taewon said grimly. "Continue the attack." The Council fleet began to recover from their shock. Their ships were more advanced, their crews more experienced. Slowly, they began to surround and destroy the human vessels that had appeared among them. But then, Ghost Squadron struck. Commander Sunho's fighter was the size of a school bus compared to the alien capital ships, but it carried the most advanced AI humanity had ever built. The fighter's computer learned the enemy's tactics in real time, adapting faster than any organic mind could follow. Sunho's Ghost Phoenix phased through the shields of the enemy flagship and materialized inside its main hangar bay. Before the aliens could react, he was firing at critical systems, causing explosions that rippled through the massive ship. "Ghost 2, follow me in," he ordered. "We're going to gut this thing from the inside." Lieutenant Yurim Shin's fighter appeared inside the flagship's engine room. She had been a stunt pilot before the war, known for taking impossible risks. Now she flew through narrow maintenance tunnels, firing at power conduits and fuel lines. The alien flagship began to list as its systems failed. Fleet Commander Vexthar watched in disbelief as tiny human fighters destroyed his ship from within. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Their technology is adapting to our defenses," reported his tactical officer. "Their AI systems are learning faster than our computers can compensate." In space, the battle had become a nightmare for both sides. Human ships fought like cornered animals, ramming enemy vessels, setting off nuclear explosions using tactics the aliens had never seen before. The cruiser Eternal Vigilance crashed directly into the bridge of a draconian dreadnought, its captain shouting defiance over the radio until the transmission cut to static. The destroyer Freedom's Price detonated its entire missile payload at once, taking out 3 alien ships in a chain reaction that lit up the solar system. But humanity was losing. For every alien ship destroyed, Earth lost 3 or 4 of its own. The numbers were just too overwhelming. Admiral Taewon watched the tactical display as ship after ship winked out of existence. Good people, brave people, dying to buy Earth. A few more hours of freedom. "Sir, we're down to 60 ships," reported Lieutenant Hana with tears in her eyes. "And they're down to 1,600, Taewon replied. "That's 400 ships they'll never get back. 400 ships that won't be available to terrorize other worlds." Commander Sunho's voice crackled over the radio from inside the enemy flagship. "Admiral, I'm at the ship's main reactor. I can overload it, but I won't be able to get clear in time." "Sunho, you don't have to," Taewon began. "Yes, I do," Sunho interrupted. "This is what we came here to do. Tell Earth that we made them pay." The enemy flagship exploded like a small sun, taking Fleet Commander Vexthar and 3,000 alien crew members with it. The explosion was so bright that people on Earth could see it without telescopes. The Council fleet was in chaos. They had expected an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, they were fighting the most vicious, unpredictable enemy they had ever encountered. The humans didn't fight like civilized beings. They rammed ships rather than surrender. They set off nuclear explosions at point-blank range. They used their own deaths as weapons. Deputy Commander Zarkoth, now in charge of the alien fleet, had never seen anything like it. "These humans fight like madmen," he said to his staff. "Should we retreat and call for reinforcements?" asked his tactical officer. Zarkoth considered this. The Council had sent 2,000 ships to crush 200 primitive vessels. They had lost almost a quarter of their fleet, and the humans were still fighting. "No," he said finally. "If word gets out that we needed reinforcements to defeat a species that just learned to travel between stars, every oppressed world in the galaxy will see it as a sign of weakness." The battle continued for 18 hours. By the end, only 12 human ships remained operational, but the Council fleet had been reduced to 800 vessels, many of them damaged. As the last human ship exploded in a final act of defiance, Deputy Commander Zarkoth surveyed the battlefield. Wreckage from both fleets drifted through space, like a metal graveyard. "Send a message to the Council," he ordered. "Earth has been defeated. Human resistance has been eliminated." But even as he spoke the words, Zarkoth knew that something had changed. For the first time in 3,000 years, a council fleet had suffered serious losses. Word would spread throughout the galaxy, no matter how hard they tried to suppress it. On hidden worlds and enslaved planets, beings who had lived under council rule for generations would hear the story. They would learn that 200 human ships had destroyed 1,200 council vessels. They would discover that resistance was possible. The humans had lost the battle, but their sacrifice would echo across the galaxy. In the wreckage floating through Earth's solar system, the seeds of rebellion had been planted. And somewhere in that wreckage, emergency beacons were still transmitting. Messages from dying human ships, broadcasting their story to anyone who would listen. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone finally said no to the council and meant it. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy was a different place. The story of humanity's last stand had spread like wildfire across 1,000 worlds, carried by traders, smugglers, and refugees. Everyone knew that the mighty council had lost 1,200 ships to a species that had barely learned to travel between stars. On the prison world of Kalara Prime, a being named Dokthun listened to the underground broadcasts with growing excitement. His people, the Kalari, had been slaves to the council for 800 years. They had built the alien ships, mined the alien worlds, and died in the alien wars. But now, for the first time in centuries, there was hope. "Is it true?" asked his cellmate, an old Kalari named Velmora. "Did the humans really make them bleed?" "It's true," Dokthun whispered. "My cousin works on the communication arrays. He intercepted council military reports. They're terrified that other species will follow the human example." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. The Zephyrians, who had been conquered 500 years ago, began secretly organizing resistance cells. The Thaxians, enslaved for over a millennium, started stockpiling weapons. The Moratai, bred to be perfect servants, began to remember what freedom meant. Captain Yarim Shin stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the Retribution. She had been one of only 12 human pilots to survive the Battle of Earth, rescued from the wreckage of her fighter by a passing merchant vessel. Now she commanded humanity's secret reconstruction efforts. The official story was that Earth had been completely destroyed, its population wiped out. The Council had broadcast this across the galaxy as a warning to other species. But the truth was different. Most of humanity had survived, hidden in underground cities and space habitats that the aliens had never discovered. "Captain, we're receiving a coded transmission," reported Communications Officer Tae-hyun Kim. He was young, barely 20, but he had volunteered to help rebuild Earth's fleet. "Put it through," Yarim said. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to an alien she had never seen before. It looked like a cross between a cat and a bird, with golden fur and bright green eyes. "Human ship, this is Resistance Leader Kilantha of the Free Zephyrian Movement. We request immediate assistance." Yarim felt her heart race. This was what they had been waiting for. Proof that their sacrifice had inspired others to fight back. "This is Captain Yarim Shin of the Earth Reconstruction Force. What kind of assistance do you need?" "Military advisors," Kilantha replied. "Weapons technology. Training for our pilots. The Council has 3 battle groups stationed in our system. We want to drive them out." "Where do you want to meet?" Yarim asked. Dr. Somin Choi worked in a secret laboratory hidden inside an asteroid. She had survived the battle by being on Earth when the Council fleet arrived. Now she led a team of scientists developing new weapons based on lessons learned from the war. "The AI combat systems performed better than we hoped," she reported to Admiral Taewon Lee via secure transmission. The old admiral had also survived, coordinating Earth's hidden recovery from a base on Mars. "How much better?" Taewon asked. "Our computers learned to counter Council tactics faster than their systems could adapt," Soman explained. "If we can share this technology with other species, they'll have a real chance of winning battles against the Council." "Do it," Taewon ordered. "Send copies of everything to our contacts in the resistance movements, It's time to level the playing field. On the Council's capital world of Nexus Prime, the ruling assembly was in emergency session. For 3,000 years they had maintained perfect order through overwhelming force. Now that order was crumbling. High Counselor Morthek, eldest of the Vorthak crystal beings, addressed the assembly. The human rebellion has inspired uprisings on 47 worlds. Our forces are stretched thin trying to contain them all. Crush them, snarled war leader Vexkoth of the Draconian Empire. Make examples of the rebels. Turn their worlds to glass like we did to the others. We tried that with the humans, Morthek replied. The result was a military disaster and galaxy-wide rebellion. Perhaps it is time to consider a different approach. You suggest negotiation? Asked Hive Queen Zixandra of the Nexari. The Council does not negotiate with slaves. Then perhaps, said a new voice, the Council needs to stop thinking of them as slaves. The assembly turned to see who had spoken. It was growth singer Vel Noth of the Silvani Collective, one of the original Council members. Explain yourself, Morthek demanded. For 3 millennia we have ruled through fear, Vel Noth said, his tree-like form swaying as he spoke. We have crushed every species that showed independence. We told ourselves this was for order, for stability. But what have we built? A galaxy full of slaves who hate us. Order, war leader Vexkoth roared. We built order. We built a prison, Vel Noth replied, and now the prisoners are breaking free. The humans showed them it was possible. Every day we continue the old ways. More species join the rebellion. Meanwhile, in the outer rim of the galaxy, humanity's secret fleet was growing, ships built in hidden shipyards, crewed by survivors of the Battle of Earth and alien refugees who had defected from the Council forces. Ambassador Yoonji Kim stood in the main hall of New Geneva, humanity's new capital built inside a hollow asteroid. Around her, delegates from dozens of species worked together on documents that would reshape the galaxy. The Free Worlds Alliance Charter is ready for signature, announced Delegate Korvash of the liberated Thaxian Republic. He was a small, blue-skinned being who had once been a slave in the Council's industrial complexes. What are the core principles? Asked Yoonji. Self-determination for all sentient species, read Delegate Yilmora of the Kalari Liberation Front. Mutual defense against oppression, free trade and communication between member worlds, and most importantly, the absolute rejection of any system based on the subjugation of one species by another. Yoonji smiled. The Council won't like it. The Council's opinion is no longer relevant, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see a figure in a Council diplomatic uniform walking into the hall. But this was no ordinary Council delegate. I am former Judge Advocate Morden of the Keltharian Assembly, the tall, gray-skinned being announced. I am here to formally request membership in the Free Worlds Alliance for my people. The hall erupted in surprised murmurs. A Council species was defecting. Why? Asked Yoonji simply. Because the humans were right. Morden replied. I was there when your ambassador gave the Council her answer. I saw courage I had never witnessed before, and I realized that my people had been on the wrong side of history for 3,000 years. 2 years after humanity's last stand, the SO galaxy was transformed. The Council's empire was in shambles, reduced to fewer than 100 worlds. Most of their former subjects had joined the Free Worlds Alliance or declared independence. Captain Yerim Shin, now Admiral of the Alliance Fleet, stood on the bridge of the New Earth as it approached the former Council capital. Around her ship, vessels from 50 different species flew in formation. Humans, Kalari, Zephyrians, Thaxians, and dozens of other races working together. Admiral, we're receiving a surrender request from Nexus Prime, reported her communications officer. Tell them we'll accept nothing less than unconditional surrender and the dissolution of the Council, Yerim replied. And remind them that they're lucky we believe in mercy. The humans they murdered at Earth might have had different ideas. On Earth itself, now being rebuilt from its wartime damage, President Min Jun-yoon stood before the Global Assembly. The old man looked tired but proud as he read from a prepared speech. 3 years ago, the Galactic Council demanded our submission. They asked for 60% of everything we had built, everything we had achieved, everything we were. They gave us 72 hours to surrender our freedom. He paused, looking out at the assembled representatives from around the globe. Our answer was simple. One word that shook the galaxy and broke the chains of tyranny that had bound 1,000 worlds. We said no. And today, because we had the courage to say that word and mean it, half the galaxy is free. In the audience, old Admiral Taewon Lee wiped tears from his eyes. Beside him sat Dr. Somin Choi, Dr. Jiwon Seo, and the other survivors of humanity's darkest hour. They had lived to see their sacrifice vindicated. But our work is not finished, President Yoon continued. Freedom is not a destination. It's a journey that each generation must take for itself. We must remain vigilant, remain strong, and remember that tyranny can return if good people do nothing to stop it. Outside the assembly hall, a monument stood in memory of those who had died in the Battle of Earth. The names of every ship, every crew member, every pilot who had given their lives were carved in black stone. At the base of the monument, simple words were etched in every language of the Free Worlds Alliance. They said no, and meant it. The galaxy remembers. As the ceremony ended and people began to disperse, a small group gathered around the monument. These were the families of those who had died, the children and spouses and parents of the heroes who had sacrificed everything for freedom. A little girl, no more than 7 years old, placed flowers at the base of the memorial. Her father had been a pilot in Ghost Squadron killed in the battle that had changed everything. Did Daddy really help save the galaxy? Lee,